Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Franklin, and today in this video we are going to rank all the pseudo-legendary Pokemon that includes Generation 9. Now I know some of you guys are gonna get heated because your favorite Pokemon might not be ranked very highly, but at the end of the day, it's my opinion. If you want to complain, go ahead and do so in the comment section down below. And before we get right into it, please like and subscribe. That is the best way to support my channel. Let's get right into it. So we all know what pseudo-legendary Pokemon are. Pretty much their base stat totals are nearly godlike legendary status. That's why they're called pseudo-legendary. So here are 11 spots. And here are the 11 Pokemon that I'm going to rank. Dragonite, Tyranitar, Salamence, Metagross, Garchomp, Hydreigon, Goodra, both versions of Goodra, Como, Dragapult, and Excalibur. So, who's going to be the bottom of the barrel Pokemon? Unfortunately, it's going to have to be our 6th gen. That is Goodra. Now, Goodra does have the stats to make it like a very bulky menace, but unfortunately, due to the lack of a recovery move outside of rest, yeah, I feel like this Pokemon, with all the bulk that it has in the world, if it had like something like Recover, this Pokemon would have been a monster. But unfortunately, without that, and due to the fact that it was introduced in a generation where fairies became a thing, I just feel like Goodra just lacks that firepower from the get-go, something that the other Pokemon might have on this list. And because of that, I'm gonna have to put its Hisuian form on number 10 as well. Now, it's kind of weird that this Pokemon ended up getting a secondary typing that makes this Pokemon slightly better than Goodra, but unfortunately, again, it has access to Shelter, but it already has Acid Armor. What were they cooking back there? But I just think the Goodra family is not good in comparison to the other pseudo-legendary counterparts. So there you have it. Those are going to be probably the worst Pokemon of this list. Up next, we have is Como. Now, Como has only been around for 2 generations because, remember, it's not in Generation 9 yet. But it did end up getting signature moves and ended up getting a signature Z move, making this Pokemon just omni-boosting. Like, literally in every generation, 7 and 8 generation, this Pokemon ended up getting moves that just pretty much boost all of its stats for whatever freaking reason. But Dragon and Fighting makes it susceptible to a lot of typings, and unless you have the proper move pool to counter a lot of its weaknesses, yeah, this Pokemon is going to be left to be desired. Of course, it has its niche move pools like Belly Drum and Clan Glorious Soul or Scale, whatever it is nowadays, with this Omni boosting. I feel like this Pokemon doesn't have the initial firepower from the get-go and requires a setup in order to become a menace. That's if it becomes a menace in the first place. Up next, we have Excalibur. Excalibur has only been around for 1 generation, so obviously only time will tell whether this Pokemon will be good. But I will say a couple good things about this Pokemon. Its ability in Thermal Exchange means that it cannot get Will-O-Wisp, which is amazing considering this Pokemon is primarily a physical attacker. It has access to Dragon Dance and Swords Dance, has really good stab moves that it can take advantage of, and has Ice Shard, something that a lot of these Pokemon right here don't have priority moves. And that's something that's very valuable in Generation 9, where the speed tier of a lot of Pokemon in this generation are just incredibly fast. And Excalibur can make up for it. I believe its max speed is 300, which is something I was not thinking it was going to be that great in this generation. But at the end of the day, Excalibur is something that only time will tell whether it's going to be good or not. Up next, we have, and this might be part of my hot takes in regards to the list, I'm going to have to say Metagross. Now, this is kind of weird for me to put at number 7 due to the fact that Metagross is one of my favorite Pokemon from Generation 3. If I had to do a Emerald or Oras run, again, Metagross would be mandatory on my team. But obviously, we're not talking about Megas. That's a disclaimer here because that's unfair that if we put in Megas, then this list would be completely different. But I do think Metagross, over the times, over the generations, this Pokemon has adapted somewhat, but it just has fallen behind to its contemporary pseudo legendaries on this list. Now, Sidekick and Steel is a godsend. typing. It has phenomenal move pool, good offense, does lack some initial speed, has some decent bulk, but again, when it comes to future generations, it hasn't really adapted very well, and I think it's been falling behind as the power creep started becoming a pretty much prominent thing. So yeah. Up next, we have is Hydreigon. Hydreigon, being dark and dragon, is very interesting. It has access to very powerful stab moves like Dragon Pulse, Draco Meteor, Dark Pulse. It definitely has benefited from Generation 8 with the addition of, just interesting move pool introduction. It basically was able to become a special attacker and a physical attacker. That's something that we really don't see in a lot of Pokemon nowadays. The fact that it's immune to ground types make this Pokemon really awesome, and immune to psychic types, something that a lot of dragons on this list cannot really say. But I will say this Pokemon has the capabilities of being not phenomenal, but it also could be phenomenal at the same time depending on who you have on your team. Now, its design is badass. I mean, three-headed dragon in this Pokemon game, phenomenal. Everyone knows Hydreigon from Getsis. I mean, it's a very classic Pokemon. Again, when it comes to consistency, I think has adapted a little better in a lot of future meta games than Metagross. It does have the move pool, and I really love its Scarf and Specs sets where it just pretty much deal a bunch of damage. But I do think it's somewhat in the middle, and that's why I would probably rank it at number 6. Up next, we have is Salamence. Now, Salamence definitely got blessed with dual wing beat in Generation 8. Which kind of solves the issue as to why this Pokemon didn't really have a flying stab move to abuse to begin with. But now it does. And with the combination of heavy duty boots, this Pokemon just screams a Moxie Sweeper. Because that's what it is. Get up a Dragon Dance or two if your opponent is feeling terrified. And once it starts killing Pokemon, basically it's a snowball that can't be stopped. Dragon and Flying is a very interesting typing as well, but it does have the move pool to take advantage of in comparison with its other counterparts, as well as the combination of Moxie, as I just mentioned. It also has access to Roost and interesting Wish, which is very interesting, but I think Roost is the get-go move you want to use for recovery. Something that a lot of these Pokemon down below can't really say much about that. But again, it's a Pokemon that without its Mega, I do think it's a mid Pokemon in relative comparison to its counterparts. Alright, now we're going to the top 4. And yeah, the top 4 is going to get interesting. I'm going to put Dragapult at number 4. Now, let me say something about Dragapult. When this Pokemon got first introduced, we looked at its stats. It's like, god damn, this Pokemon's fast. But its attack stats and special attack stats weren't that great until people started realizing, hey, this Pokemon has access to Shadow Ball and Draco Meteor and Flamethrower and Thunderbolt and Hydro Pump. Let me slap on the specs. And this Pokemon speed tier allows it to outspeed the majority of the metagame in Generation 8, unless your name was Aurora, which, that's a mythical Pokemon at that point. This Pokemon's outspeeding everything, and Ghost typing in general has been phenomenal in these recent generations. Just spamming Shadow Balls, and especially in Generation 9 where Terrassalization is now a thing. Yeah, this Pokemon, unless they nerf this Pokemon speed tier or they just reduce its stats in general, this Pokemon is going to be sticking around for years to come. I can clearly see this Pokemon being a threat if there ever is a Generation 10. And again, Ghost typing is phenomenal for 2 reasons. One, there's not a lot of knockoff users nowadays because knockoff got nerfed in a lot of move pools, and the lack of pursuit is what's making this Pokemon top tier, because without fearing a pursuit, this Pokemon can do whatever it wants to you. And I haven't really mentioned this Dragon Dance set, which is the physical attacking set that makes this Pokemon quite good. And it has really good abilities in Infiltration and Clear Body and Curse Body as well. So it just has really good abilities, a good stab, good move pool, good stat distribution. I mean, this Pokemon, I would probably rank it higher, but obviously there's 3 other Pokemon that have a very lasting legacy than Dragapult. Dragapult's only been around for 2 generations too. So there you have it. In third, the bronze medal is going to go to Tyranitar. Yes, good old Tyranitar. Everyone thought this Godzilla-looking Pokemon was going to be living up to its name, and it definitely does. It has outrageous attack. It has phenomenal bulk, especially with the combination of Sandstream making it have phenomenal special defense. It has a varying move pool. It can throw fire attacks, ground attacks, rock, dark, electric, ice, dragon, steel. This Pokemon can do everything. And it can also set some rocks, throw off some thunder waves. Basically, this Pokemon is just bulky as hell. It can't really die in one hit unless you're throwing off like a close combat or a choice band earthquake, or something that's super effective against. This Pokemon is always going to be in battle for a very long time. It's basically a backbone for a lot of teams nowadays, and especially getting up Sandstream, meaning that it can boost other teammates like Houndstone. And if Excadrill were to come back, you damn well know Excadrill is going to be a top tier threat as long as Tyranitar and or the combination of Powdon are around. This Pokemon, again, hits incredibly hard if you're not prepared. It also has access to Dragon Dance, meaning it can sweep your ass. It can boost its attack stats to already incredible levels through the stratosphere at this point. And Tyranitar being dark and rock is a pretty interesting typing. Basically, it's a defensive behemoth that can throw punches very, very well. Something that Grudra wishes it could be. Oh boy. Now we're down to the silver and gold medalists. I'm going to put the OG. The OG Dragonite at number 2. And let me tell y'all something about Dragonite. Dragonite has been consistent over the years. I'll admit that. Outside of maybe Generation 3 because of the special and physical split, it's been on top for quite a while. In Generation 9, it definitely benefited a lot. But I will say this, in Generation 8, with the introduction of heavy-duty boots, it basically made Dragonite like a menace to society, because this Pokemon with multi-scale, oh my god, it just doesn't die. And if you try to switch out, from this Pokemon, you know damn well your opponent's gonna basically hit Dragon Dance. I'm gonna say this: out of the 100 Dragonites that I would face in battle, 90% of the time they're gonna click Dragon Dance unless there's a prominent threat that I can use against Dragonite. But because of terrestrialization in Generation 9, most Dragonites now are like fairy types, normal because of extreme speed, and extreme speed is a very valuable tool that Dragonite can use in this generation. I've seen Dragonites now run Encore to stop annoying ass status Pokemon from hindering Dragonite to begin with. I mean, terrestrialization is probably the reason why Dragonite is now like kind of broken, to be honest with you. Like having a +1 because of Dragon Dance with a Terra boosted extreme speed, that's just nuts to think about. And this Pokemon has access to Roost, so in the event that you get hit and your multi-scale is broken, this Pokemon can just roost it up and boom, it gets its ability intact. This Pokemon also has very good special attack that it can just throw off hurricanes, thunders, fire blasts, blizzards or ice beams, and yeah, it's just a phenomenal Pokemon overall. I think in this generation just goes to show that Dragonite is always going to be good, especially with the introduction of multi-scale from Generation 5. I mean, ever since it got that ability, Dragonite has always been on top and just an amazing Pokemon. And now we have the gold medalist, and that's going to be our good old lovely boy Garchomp. Now, I ain't got much to say about this Pokemon, but the fact that this Pokemon has been on top of the game, on top of the metagame list for 17 years, almost 2 decades, this Pokemon has not disappointed since I was in middle school. Longevity, consistency, competitiveness, has a really good stat spread, Obviously, attack and speed, but it also has some pretty good bulk and phenomenal HP as well. This Pokemon can be used as a choice band user. It can use as a hazard stacker. It can be used as choice scarf if you really need some speed control on your team. I mean, this Pokemon can do it all, and it's probably one of the most annoying Pokemon to deal with due to the fact that it can take hits, it can throw off massive hits right back at you, it can set up rocks, and this generation can set up spikes. It can phase you out with Dragon Tail to prevent setup sweepers or annoying ass Pokemon. I mean, man, this Pokemon, there's a reason why it's been on top of the game for 2 decades. I'm gonna have to say that again, 2 decades. Unlike Dragonite, where Dragonite might have been, not that great for a couple generations here and there. Nah, Garchomp has been on top of the game for nearly 2 decades. This Pokemon can do it all. Even with the introduction of fairy types, this Pokemon doesn't care. You got Earthquake, you got Poison Jab, has Iron Head. Oh, you got Flying Pokemon, it got Stone Edge too. Rock Slide, got Crunch for Ghost types, Psychic types. It has Swords Dance, and then it got Scale Shot in Generation 8, and then we truly saw what happens if Garchomp were to ever get Dragon Dance. Yeah, I think this Pokemon deserves to be number 1. And there you have it. That's a little rapid fire list. I didn't want this video to be that long because I know there's been a lot of lists out there. And yeah, this is my entire list. I'm going to try to put all these Pokemon in one. There you go. Try to show all the Pokemon in one rank list right there. There you have it. Let me know what you guys think about this list. I would say, honestly, 5 through 8 may be interchangeable for me. Maybe perhaps Hydreigon over Salamence, but I think Salamence has a lot more potential due to Generation 8 with dual wing beat. But we shall see. Obviously, a lot of these Pokemon are not in Scarlet and Violet, so obviously if they were in Scarlet and Violet, then this list might have changed, somewhat. I think around this range between 4 through 9. But overall, this is my list. Let me know what you guys think. It's your boy Franklin signing out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And check out these videos right here. Make sure you do that. Peace.